Welcome in once again, everybody, to the Shelby County High School Football Show, another special playoff edition this week as we head into round 2 of the 2022 high school football playoffs right here in Shelby County. And what a special round 1 it was last Friday night as we had some school history made at a couple of stops, including the Vincent Yellow Jackets, who pick up their 10th win for the first time in school history. An incredible comeback victory against Laverne. Trailed that game 35-22 with less than 3 minutes to play. They come back, they win it 36-35. They score a touchdown, get an onside kick, score another touchdown, and then a defensive stand at the end for just an incredible victory. And we'll talk more about that later on in the show as we look ahead to the round 2 matchup for the Vincent Yellow Jackets, and that's going to be a fun one as well. But beyond that, the Pelham Panthers, they get their first playoff win for the first time since 2006. So it's been a while there, 16 years, and they get that playoff win yet again. First year under head coach Mike Vickery as he came from Northridge last year to Pelham this season, faced his old squad in round 1, able to pick up a special victory as the Panthers also going to be in an intriguing matchup this Friday night with a chance to pick up a win and advance to the quarterfinals of the Class 6A playoffs. And, of course, right here at Thompson High School, the Warriors, as they look to four-peat in Class 7A, they advance once again as they take down Huntsville last Friday night, and now a rematch with Vestavia Hills this Friday night. Going to be an exciting battle between these two schools, and you look at this matchup in particular, and it's going to look a lot different than the one we saw earlier this season that Thompson was able to handle with relative ease. And, of course, the Evangel Lightning, they win the ACSC State Championship in 8-man football. Just a dominant performance last week. Finished the season undefeated in the state of Alabama. Now they head off to the national championship. They've got a 4-team playoff there as they will head to the national championship, try to compete at the national level, and win yet another national championship to cement themselves as the best 8-man team in high school football. So we'll see if that unfolds like it has the last few years. And the Cornerstone Chargers, another team that has advanced in the AISA 8-man playoffs there in the state of Alabama, as Cornerstone picks up a big win, gets redemption last week, advances to the semifinals this week against a team that they beat earlier this year. So we'll see if Cornerstone's able to pick up a win this Friday night to advance to the 8-man AISA state championship. We're going to talk about all of those games that we do have coming up this Friday night. That's going to be 4 matchups that we're going to break down. We're going to jump in and we're going to start right now, waste no time. We're going to start right here at Thompson High School as the Warriors are going to welcome Vestavia Hills. Thompson did exactly what it needed to last week as they take on Huntsville and they pitch a shutout, 34-0 against the Panthers. And coming off a bye week, the week after losing to Hoover to fall in the region championship game there, 9-0 in a hard-fought battle, especially on the defensive side of the football. That was something that Thompson needed to see. The defense showed that it can continue to be a difference maker going into the playoffs, and the offense took a little bit of a turn last week as well. And you look at what the key was there, and it's that they found a little bit of a passing attack. Trent Seaburn, the 8th grade quarterback there, has been the storyline throughout the week as he threw for 342 yards and 4 touchdowns in his first true start in round 1 of the Class 7A playoffs. That's special. It's unbelievable, and it's rightful to be a storyline going into this second round of the playoffs because he's going to be a talent that we talk about a lot over the next several years. But let me remind you, this is a Thompson team that's very deep, very athletic, very talented, and they still have a junior quarterback in Zach Sims who's a leader on this team, a leader in the locker room, and he's a guy that's been battling through an injury most of the season to his hand and yet still been there every step of the way. So they've got 2 quarterbacks going into this matchup against Vestavia Hills that I think could be difference makers. You've got one that can throw the ball, read the defenses extremely well. You've got another who can make throws and who can run the ball as an athlete as well. And you look at what happened in this game against Vestavia the first time around. Thompson wins that one 34-14. And there was it's been a roller coaster ride for the offense throughout the season, but Sims stepped up big time in that first matchup between these two teams, had one of his best games of the season. So when you head into a matchup like this, it's tough to go away from that too. So you've got two trustworthy quarterbacks going into this one, and we'll see what that looks like going into Friday night. But you got to feel good about your options there, considering what you saw the first time around and considering the adjustments that you made going into round one of the playoffs, and now Seaburn stepping up as a legitimate option here at this point in the season, something that they needed to see that spark with in the passing game. That gives them a little bit more balance going into this matchup. Now Vestavia's got to really prepare for what Thompson can do running the football with A.J. Green, Michael Dujon, but beyond that now, what they can do passing the football, not only because we saw a good passing performance last week, but because we saw the receivers start to step up as well. Deuce Oliver with a big game, several others stepped up, had impressive performances in the passing game a week ago, and it's that team effort, everybody coming together and playing a role, and that's going to be key for the Warriors heading into round two against Vestavia, because let me tell you, this is not going to be as easy as it was the first time. The defense, sure, they can come out, they can have another solid performance. They gave up 14 points in that first game, but guess what? That was with two backup quarterbacks in the game. John Paul Head, the starting quarterback at Vestavia Hills, that was a stretch of play where he was not playing football early in the season. He came back shortly after that, and guess what? Vestavia's won 6 of the last 7 games. The only loss in that span, a very tight one-possession loss to Hewitt-Trustville, one of the other top teams in the state and in this region. So you look at that, he's back, he's healthier, and he's been lights out down the stretch of the season. He's going to be a key for Vestavia Hills this week, and they need that. They've got to have somebody. If you're going to beat Thompson, you've got to have an offense that can at least produce some drives, put up some points, because the defense not going to give up a ton any given week, and you're going to have to really earn a hard-fought victory in a game like this. But that swings us to the other side of this football game. We saw what happened the first time around, a 34-14 win. Sims had one of his best games of the season, both throwing the football and running the football, had success on the offensive side. That's going to be the key again in this one, in my opinion. We know Thompson's defense, it's hard to see them giving up more than 14, especially more than 20 points in a game like this. I mean, you just look at what they've done on the defensive side of the football so far this season, and they've basically given up 14 or less in every game of the season so far, and it's just been unbelievable to watch. They're truly giving up an average of 12.3 points per game, but that doesn't take into account those first 2 games that we've mentioned several times throughout the season against the nationally ranked teams in Buford and Lipscomb Academy, where they gave up 20-plus, but the offense was responsible for giving up a lot of those points because of turnovers. So you look truly at what they've been able to do. They've given up 14 or less in every game so far this season, and it's been remarkable the last several weeks to see what they've done on that side of the ball as well. So I think that's a big key. Obviously, Thompson's defense is going to be successful in any game that they play if they come with that hungry determination that we've seen throughout the season, down the stretch of the season. They want to make the difference. They want to be the reason this team wins a 4th straight state championship. So you pair that with an offense that had success in this game the first time around, and I know it's tough to have that kind of success and replicate it for a second game against the same opponent. But you look at what this Thompson offense has done to grow throughout the season, but especially between that game against Hoover, the bye week, and where they were last week to where they are going to be this Friday night. That's the difference to me. This team has opened up the playbook a little bit more. It's going to have a little bit more potential to do some different things on the offensive side of the football, and that's the storyline going into this one. How much better will Vestavia's offense look with John Paul Head back at the helm there as the starting quarterback for the Rebels, and what's Thompson's offense going to look like with the improvements that they've made going into this matchup too? It's the quarterfinals of the Class 7A playoffs. You've got 2 teams playing some great football right now. The Rebels scoring 36.3 points per game, giving up 19.4 points per game, and they're coming off a 52-10 win against Austin last week, and Thompson, obviously we talked about it, a 34-0 shutout against Huntsville. So these 2 teams arguably entering this game coming off two of their best games of the season, and now they get to go head-to-head against each other for a spot in the Class 7A semifinals. We know what Thompson's trying to do. They're trying to win their fourth state championship in a row, trying to get back to the semifinals as well for the sixth consecutive year. So just looking at that, just would be remarkable to see this team get to where they could go at the end of the night on Friday night. But this is going to be a tough, tough battle where I think you're going to see two teams giving everything they've got. And this is a region. It's obviously Class 7A Region 3 all the way across the board in this portion of the bracket, as Hoover and Hewitt are going to face off against one another as well. And to a lot of people, it would not be surprising if it's Vestavia-Hewitt instead of that Thompson-Hoover rematch. So those teams going to have to come and be ready to play on Friday night, because Hoover or Hewitt and Vestavia ready to kind of send some shockwaves across the state. So if neither of those teams are ready, we won't get that rematch again this year between Thompson and Hoover. But at the end of the day, I think it's this defense of Thompson that ultimately can make the difference. We've seen what they've done throughout the season. We've seen what they've done in recent weeks. If this offense has grown at all, that should be able to be enough going into this game. And it's I've said it several times throughout the year, this is a team in Thompson, if they can get into the 20s, then that should be enough to win every game with the defense that they've got this season. So that's got to be the goal. Come out with a game plan, get off to a fast start, convert if you get into the red zone, and get those early points, because you know if you can get 14 in the first half, score an early touchdown in the second half, you got to be feeling good about your chances. So it's all about that game plan, all about that preparation, and all about capitalizing on your opportunities when you get them. Thompson's able to do that with the defense that they have. It's tough to see them not advancing back to the Class 7A semifinals. But like I said, going to be a much more difficult task than this game was the first time around. But either way, going to be a blast out here at Warrior Stadium on Friday night. Can't wait to see these two go to head-to-head for a spot in the Class 7A semifinals. Well, it couldn't have gone any better for the Pelham Panthers in round one of the Class 6A playoffs, as they pick up a dominant win against Northridge, win that game 44-14. Fell behind 7-0 early in that matchup, scored 44 unanswered to take a 44-7 lead and ultimately win it 44-14. And it was just unreal to see those updates coming across throughout the night and just how dominant of a performance that was from Pelham. And I won't hide from it. I picked Pelham to lose that game, and I thought it was going to be a tough, physical, close battle between those two teams. But boy, did the Panthers come out and make it anything but that. They came out with determination, and they came out ready to prove a point. And a lot of that stems with the defense playing well. They made a point to be a difference maker in that game, and it paid off easily and quickly in that football game, as the defense, with the turnovers and with some of the plays they were able to make, helped spark some things offensively as well. But that offense didn't need much spark either, because they were dominant throughout the night. Clayton Maines just continues to impress me week after week, a guy that entered the season with so much unknown surrounding him. Is he going to be a running quarterback? Is he going to be a passing quarterback? He's got the left-hand arm. There was just so much that we didn't know we were going to get from him coming into the season, and he has taken command of that position, of that role. And to see where he is now from where he started the season, the growth, the leadership, and really the respect that he has of his teammates has been pretty impressive to watch unfold, because it truly has been a tremendous growth from start to finish. And they're not finished. They've still got some football to play in the 6A playoffs, obviously this week with a chance to get to the quarterfinals. And coming off last week's performance, they've got to be riding a high. They've got to be feeling confident, like they can compete with anybody because of how they played last week. That's a team, if they play like that this week, they'll win. If they play like that the rest of the season, they've got a chance to compete for a 6A state championship. It just comes down to being able to execute to that same level and to that caliber, because as you advance, teams are going to be better prepared, and teams are going to make less mistakes against you. Northridge made a ton of mistakes in that game that helped Pelham at different times throughout. So when you get into the second round, you're going to have to be more prepared. You're going to have to be just as motivated or more motivated than you were in round one, and that's going to be the story every step of the way throughout the rest of the season. And you look at what they've got ahead, there's some chances, there's some opportunities, and that starts this week. Against St. Paul's out of Mobile. The difficult part for the Panthers in this game is the long road trip down south to Mobile to play this game on the road. That's always a difficult task when you've got to sit on a bus for that long and get ready for a football game of this magnitude at this point in the season. So that's going to be a challenging thing just mentally to overcome. But at the same time, you look at these two teams and where they sit at this point in the season, and they're pretty evenly matched football teams, and I think that leads to a great football game. Once again, similar to what I was expecting last week, so maybe that bodes well for Pelham. But you look at what these two teams have done on paper, and you've got both of them sitting at 6-5 overall on the season. St. Paul's, they're coming off a 13-0 win in round one against Carver Montgomery to advance, and that was a 1 versus 4 matchup, as St. Paul's was the 4 seed in that region, coming out of their region. Carver, the 1 seed coming out of their region. Carver had only lost 1 regular season game, but you look at what St. Paul's was able to do. That defense just been dominant throughout the season. That carried into the first round as they pick up that 13-0 shutout victory, and now Pelham's still going to have a seed advantage in this game as the 2 seed out of their region, whereas St. Paul is, like I said, the 4 seed out of their region. So you look at what these two teams have done so far this season. St. Paul is scoring 20.8 points per game, giving up 18.7 on the defensive side of the football, and that's the key. This is a defense that's given up 14 or less in 5 consecutive games, with last week's loss or win, and 21 or less in 8 of 11 games so far this season. So you look at that, the defense, like I said, 14 or less in 5 straight, including last week with that shutout, and then 21 or less in 8 of 11 games so far this season, equaling up to that 18.7 average that they've given up on the defensive side of the football. So this defense playing extremely well coming into this matchup, and what does that say? Well, Pelham, they're going to have to be prepared for a low-scoring, physical, slugfest-type football game, and that's going to start with their defense being ready to play yet again. And we've seen what this defense is capable of throughout the season. It's been pretty special to watch at different times. There's been some inconsistencies there, but with what they did last week, both forcing turnovers at the line of scrimmage and getting in the backfield, that's got to carry over to this week. If they can do that again, they're going to be right in this football game with no problems at all. And you look at what they've done throughout the season, the offense scoring 24.4 points per game, the defense giving up 22.4 points per game. So both of these teams scoring about 2 more points than they're giving up so far this season, and both right around that 20 points per game mark on both sides of the football game or the football. So that leads to what you expect to be an exciting game between these two teams. And like I said, I think it comes down to which defense shows up ready to play. And then if the defense does show up ready to play, can the offense capitalize on that against what's going to be another solid defense on the other side? So you look at that, Pelham's opportunities ahead, going to rely on how motivated, determined, hungry they are going into this game, but also how well prepared they are for what St. Paul's is going to throw at them. And that's studying film, that's being well prepared throughout the week of practice, and kind of knowing once you step on the field, then it becomes easy because you know what's going to be coming your way. If they can do that, they're going to have a very strong chance to pick up another win, especially because this offense has gained so much confidence throughout the season. They're playing good football, and St. Paul's has struggled a little bit on that side of the ball. Going up against this Pelham defense, man, that makes you think that Pelham has a really good shot to advance to the quarterfinals of the Class 6A playoffs. So under first-year head coach Mike Vickery, they get that first playoff win since 2006 last week. Can they keep history going this Friday night as they hit the road to Mobile? It's going to be a lot of fun to watch that one unfold, and we'll see if the Pelham Panthers can continue a historic stretch here in the 2022 high school football season. What an unbelievable scene at Vincent High School last Friday night as the Yellow Jackets pull off a historic comeback victory in the final few minutes against Laverne. Trailed that game 35-22 with just more than 4 minutes to play, And then everything unfolded right before their eyes, as head coach Lucas Weatherford said it would. He told his guys in a timeout, this is what we need to do. This is how it's going to happen, and we're going to win this football game. And sure enough, it happened right before their eyes. They go out, they get a touchdown pass from Blake Ollams to Zach Carlisle right after. Then they get the 2-point conversion, and then recover an onside kick. Nolan Kratz recovers that onside kick, keeps their hopes alive with limited timeouts that the game would have been over had they not recovered that onside kick. They get that, and then they go down, and it's Ollams straight to Carlisle again as they pull off a 36-35 victory, win their 10th game for the first time in school history, and advance to the second round of the Class 2A playoffs. And to see the emotions on the field after that football game, this is a team, when Weatherford came in as a coach several years ago, his goal was to get them to believe that they could win every game, put in the hard work to win every game, and to see the growth that they've had, the belief that's been growing each of the last several years to build to this moment with this senior class and what they've been able to accomplish. It was just special to be a part of and to see on the field Friday night, as there were tears, fans were on the field, celebrations, fireworks, everything you could imagine small town high school football being. That's what it was, in a celebratory moment. And now they head on to round 2, looking to advance to the quarterfinals of the Class 2A playoffs, and it couldn't come against a more exciting opponent and opportunity as they get the chance to take down the defending champs in the 2A classification, as Vincent hits the road to take on Clark County this Friday night. And this is a Clark County team that not quite as good as they were a year ago when it comes to what we've seen on the football field throughout the season from a consistency standpoint, sitting at 6-5 overall entering the game. That said, this is a team that's played one of the most difficult schedules in the 2A classification. Their opponent's record so far this season is 80-48, which is just unreal how successful their opponents have been this season. So that 6-5 record, a little bit skewed by what the teams that they've played, and they've won 5 of their last 6 games entering this matchup. They won the region championship, so this is still a very talented 2A football team that's going to give Vincent a very tough test. And even with all the celebrations last week, Weatherford immediately said that this is a team in Clark County that's not nearly what their record shows. It's the defending champ, and they're going to be a tough test for Vincent come Friday night. So we'll see what the Yellow Jackets are able to do, but that opportunity, yet again, it just feels like they're destined for something special this season. And what would be more special than coming off your 10th win for the first time in school history and then going on the road and taking down the defending state champions? And it's going to be a very tall task, and one of the big keys going into this game for the Yellow Jackets is going to be shifting that focus quickly from such an emotional high to then 2 days later being able to prepare for arguably your most difficult game of the season. And that's a tough thing. And Vincent knows they didn't play their best football game last week. If they played their best, they wouldn't be sitting in that situation at the end of the game, basically needing a miraculous finish down the stretch. The defense didn't play nearly as good as it could have, as really Laverne in that second half was able to score on just about every single drive because they went to the power run, and they just ran the ball up and down the field throughout that second half. So you're going to have to not only get over that emotional high from winning that football game, but also going to have to get rested up, get your stamina back, get your legs back under you, and be prepared for a better defensive game this week. And the offense, I mean, we saw late in that game just how explosive they could be, and we saw it a little bit early on in that game, but there was a lull there at some point in those middle 2 quarters as well. So just got to find that consistency. If they play their best game this week, if they play like they're capable of, Vincent should be able to walk away victorious yet again. It's just not going to be a very easy win. It's going to be another hard-fought victory to get to that point. You look at these two teams on paper, and it's like I said, Vincent looks like the team that should be able to win this football game. They're scoring 46.6 points per game, and guess what? That's 26.6 more points per game than what we're seeing from Clark County right now, with an average of 20 per game so far this season. Defensively, however, both of these teams have been extremely well off throughout the season. Vincent giving up 16.5 points per game, and that's almost the exact match to what Clark County has given up this season at 16.8 points per game. We mentioned the difficulty in schedule. Vincent's schedule their opponents 56-70 so far this season, whereas Clark County is sitting with an opponent's record of 80-48 overall. That's not to say Vincent hasn't had a challenging schedule. They've taken on ranked teams. Obviously, their lone loss, a 36-35 loss to BB Comer, who's inside the top 10. And oddly enough, last week, Vincent gets a 36-35 victory in crazy fashion. But beyond that, they've taken on Isabella, Thorsby. Just to win the region or finish second in the region was a difficult enough challenge for Vincent. They've faced those tests. They've been battle tested. And a game like last week is something that can really benefit this team going into this week. Knowing how close it was to slipping away, to me, that's all you need to drive you each day of the week when it comes to practice and preparation going into this game. That said, defense is going to be key for the Yellow Jackets. We talked about it just a second ago. They've got to be ready to roll on that side of the ball because if your offense isn't producing a lot of points against a very good Clark County defense, your defense is going to have to be ready to battle in this one and shut down what Clark County's doing as well. And that's the key because Clark County struggled to score points throughout the season, sitting with an average of 20 points per game. That's going to be something that if Vincent's defense shows up ready to play, then Clark County shouldn't score a ton of points, and that gives you the opportunity, if you're Vincent, to really try to pull away throughout this football game slowly and consistently. And that's what I expect the defense for Vincent to bounce back, have a better game this week. And I do expect the offense to continue to play well, just maybe not what we've seen consistently throughout the season of an average of 46.6 points per game, because they are going up against a very difficult Clark County defense. Either way, what a special, special year for the Vincent Yellow Jackets. It doesn't feel like it should be done. It feels like there's more ahead for this team. But they're going to have to turn the page extremely quickly from one of the biggest weeks in school history to now realizing that you've got an even bigger opportunity ahead to take down the defending Class 2A champions. We'll see if Vincent can make that happen, if this magical ride can continue on the road at Clark County. Well, our final game to talk about, that's going to be the Cornerstone Chargers hitting the road to take on Springwood in an AISA 8-man semifinal game. And this is the first season of this classification, of this region in the AISA with these 8-man teams. And Cornerstone's had success, and last week they get a big redemption win against North River Christian, 72-51. And boy, did the offense look good in that football game. Lost to North River 52-48 earlier in the season as they kind of dug themselves into a hole, tried to come back, and ultimately that comeback fell short. This time around, the offense was determined to come out early and have success, and they did just that, putting up 72 points in that 21-point victory. And now another rematch this week as they hit the road to take on Springwood. And this is a team, this time around, Springwood will be the one looking for redemption. Cornerstone, they won this game 52-50, really in miraculous fashion the first time around, as they were able to hit a big, long play in the final seconds there of that football game to pick up a last-second win, 52-50. And now they enter this matchup with the hopes of repeating that success and not making it quite as thrilling and exciting down the finish, but repeating that success to get into the AISA 8-man state championship. Cornerstone scoring 40.6 points per game, giving up 34.9 points per game. Springwood scoring right at 40 points per game and giving up 23 points per game. So we've seen the success of Springwood at times throughout the season. They won the region, got a bye week to get into this game as the 1 seed, and will take on Cornerstone. So they've got home field advantage coming off a bye week, and obviously the redemption factor at play there as well. So but you look at all that, we've seen inconsistencies at times from both of these football teams throughout the season, and that's going to be the key this week. Who's going to be more focused, who's going to be more consistent, and who's going to be more ready to play and determined to pull away a victory at the end of the night. When you look at these two teams on paper, it looks like with the defense that Springwood has, they should be the one that walks away victorious. But they gave up 52 to Cornerstone last time around, and this offense is rolling. I think both of these offenses are going to have success in this football game, and I think you're going to see a fantastic one with a spot in the state championship on the line. I think at the end of the day, that redemption factor could play a role with Springwood having home field advantage, but I don't see either of these teams really having an upper hand. I think it's just going to be maybe who has the ball last with a chance to win, and can the defense step up in that situation to make a play, or will the offense step up and make a difference there in a tight football game? It's going to be a lot of fun, I think, between these two with a spot in the state championship on the line. Well, that does it for this week's Shelby County High School football show. It's going to be another fantastic week. We've got 4 teams playing playoff football this week, and we've got several looking for big-time victories. Thompson wins, they make it to the Class 7A semifinals. If Pelham and Vincent win, they make it to their respective quarterfinals, and anything can happen at that point. If you're able to make it into the quarterfinals, you got a very good chance to get to a state championship game at the end of the year. And obviously Thompson, they would only be 1 win away from getting back to the Class 7A state championship, looking for that 4th consecutive title in a row. Just remarkable to see where they are, the opportunities they have, and boy, that should be enough of a driving force throughout this week to have them ready to go once they hit the field right here behind me at Warrior Stadium. It's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait for Friday night, another action-packed week. I'll be out here at Thompson High School along with my coworker Lauren Sexton, who's going to be covering this game. We'll have live tweets, we'll have stories, we'll have photos, we'll have videos, we'll have everything you need to keep you updated from a busy, action-packed week of playoff football right here across Shelby County as 3 of our teams hit the road, 1 team right here at home. It's going to be a fun-filled night. Can't wait to see how it all unfolds on a huge night ahead for our local football teams. I will see you then, but until then, that's going to do it from here at Thompson High School.